There's a lot of confusion, it seems, about what the swamp is. I think even Trump has it wrong. He doesn't quite understand what the swamp is or what it entails to drain it. In his view, and the view of many, I gather, this swamp is a group of mostly old white men who have gained power and are using their power to strip resources and wealth from the populace, from the people. But I think this isn't entirely accurate, and it makes draining the swamp far more difficult and perhaps seem as difficult as it is easier than what it actually is going to be. In other words, without the proper analytics, we don't have a really effective, we can't devise an effective solution. It seems to me that the Bible is actually the only book and the only author who has really come to a clear understanding of what the swamp is and who has consequently um, understood just how difficult the task is and what the task entails. The brilliance of scripture is that it creates a very clear and distinct um, picture. There's two groups in the Bible paradigm. Um, and these are labeled different ways. The sheep and the goats, those on the left, those on the right. We in the world perhaps understand them better as Christians and the world, or even conservatives versus socialists. The beauty of this um, diagram is that it does give us a very clear analytical picture. And we can also see the solution entailing taking people from the one group and moving them into the other. And why it's important to think this way is that it helps us understand there's a very clear line of demarcation between the two groups. There's a distinction. And while left and right and saved and unsaved sheep and goats helps us understand that um, the understand the two concept of the two groups, it doesn't really clarify what the ultimate distinction is or what distinction is important so far as the analyticals go. Um, and what we mean by this is that there is a distinct characteristics. Yes, one is saved and one isn't. One follows Christ and one doesn't. But what does this mean when we look at somebody, when we listen to them, when we look at their life? Um, how do we know that they're not following Christ? How do we know that they're not saved? How do we know where their allegiance lays? And I think the best way to characterize these two groups is that one is a Democrat, not in the political sense, but in the metaphysical or moral, ideological sense, and they are um, conceptually aligned with democracy rather than Democratic Party. And this is the problem with Satan is that he has confused language. and he is the father of lies. So democracy is distinctly a Christian conservative position. The Democrats as a party are distinctly left. Democracy is the will of the people. The people are the natural person. The people are composed of natural persons, persons with natural rights, people under God. Democrats are socialists. The Democrat Party are a socialist party. And socialists adhere to the idea of the end justifying the means, might makes right. They think a want is sufficient to have it satisfied. They tend to want to be subsidized. And this is the key take that we need to take away from this. The one group pays for its own costs, and the other group does not. They want subsidized to be subsidized in some way. So let's get down to brass tacks here and really clarify what we're talking about. We have two groups, one on the left, one on the right. The left wants to be subsidized, so they need to transfer their cost, or what the economists call externalize their cost, onto society and future generations. The right tends to be individualistic and to work and get what they want by their own hand and through fair trade, or through what is called the free market. The beauty, or the nefariousness might be a better word, of the left is that while they exploit the right and conspire to have the wealth created by the right put to public um, use, the real power of the left is in pushing the costs of their largesse forward. They talk about social justice and um, equality, but it's a scam to pacify the right into allowing costs to be pushed forever forward onto other to the unborn, basically. Costs are also generalized over society, but the real evil is pushing their costs onto others that are not yet born. Um, this is seen in abortion, which is a problem in itself, but also in debt, in public debt, but also to a large extent private debt. Debt is paid for by future generations, and we can justify this to some extent by saying the future generation will also pass their um, debt onto even later generations. But the actual reality is that people in the present are living beyond their actual capacity to earn um, a lifestyle. And what is also um, unfortunate is that they've gotten the right complicit in this fraud because the right are thinking, well, I don't have to pay it, the future has to pay it. And so they're not really fighting against this externalization of debt onto society and future generations because it's been so generalized, so spread out. It doesn't seem to impact us enough individually to raise up our ire. We see this really bleakly in the response to COVID 19, where all this debt and all these shutdowns, which are all costs, whether you shut down production or you borrow to pay for the shutdown and other costs, is it doesn't really matter. It's still a cost that's being passed on to the future because even if we're shut down, we're still eating, we're still breathing, we're still living, and these have costs and we're not earning. And the real evil in this is that the ones who are going to be footing the bill are the young people, and the young people are the least impacted by this COVID 19. So we're taking the cost of protecting people who sometimes need protection and sometimes not, but we're protecting people, adults of the present, by charging the small children or children and grandchildren to protect us. And the children are not the ones that are going to suffer, except in the fact that they have to pay the debt of protecting us. So the swamp is really typified by this. And by this I mean a response to the other world to this COVID-19 virus. The adult population is protecting themselves by using resources of the future that are going to fall on their children. And this is, in the clearest way we can picture it, is the swamp. It's this mass of people, the voter and their representatives, who are ganging up on the unborn, the young and the unborn.